Hello everyone, and welcome to Talking Twst, where I talk about whatever I want that's Twist related and answer some questions from fellow fans. I'm extremely angry right now, and maybe I shouldn't be writing scripts, but I'm gonna do it anyways. I'm so fucking mad about TikTok sucking that stupid orange Nazi's dick. I'm so angry with the way the world is turning out right now. I was already in a bad mood because of that. Obviously, I've been in a bad mood since November. But also, I'm having to reread To Gaze Upon Wicked Gods for work-related reasons. If you know, you know. And then also priming me to continue to be in a bad mood in general is the newest Twist event in JP. So yeah, this podcast is gonna be me being a giant bitch. If you just want to skip over to the viewer questions where I won't be a bitch, feel free to. But I'm in a terrible mood and I need something productive to do that isn't reading Wicked Gods. So I'm gonna talk about my issues with the battle map events, or as JP calls them, magic assault practice. I normally don't like being overly negative about things that honestly don't really matter. Like, this is a video game. Does this game mean a lot to me? Absolutely. But it's a video game at the end of the day. And normally, I would try and steer clear of clouding people's opinions on something before it gets released on EN. For starters, everyone's tastes are different, and I like you guys forming your own opinions on things even if they conflict with mine. I don't want anyone to parrot me when it comes to game stuff. I want you guys to think for yourselves. That's why I try to discuss opposing sides when it comes to theories, so you guys can come to your own conclusions. But one, I'm in a bad mood and want to be mean, and two, I have a lot of criticisms when it comes to the MAP events. JP is currently going through its third one, but EN as of now hasn't gotten one, although I wouldn't be surprised if the first one drops next month. I was talking about my complaints with these events last night during my sub stream, and maybe I'll throw in some clips there to drive my points home. But I want to complain again and talk things through because I think they could be a lot better. If you play JP, you unfortunately know how these events work. If you don't, to give an extremely basic rundown, the game has 7 battle maps for you to go through. There's usually at least one mini-boss and then one boss. There are tiles that give you rewards, but you only receive those rewards once you beat the last boss and complete the map. There's a lot of other mechanics, but since I'm criticizing those, I'm gonna hold off on talking about them right now immediately. So what are my problems with these events? Where do I begin? The first of my 95 theses is who gets to be a guest character? This event makes you pick 5 to 10 characters to pick teams from, so you don't have your whole card roster available to you. That's not my problem. I mean, it's not my favorite thing, but in the grand scheme of things, this is not a big deal. My problem is I think some characters should be automatically included in your lineup as guests and not count as a filled slot. For example, Rolo and Fellow have cards in JP. You can pick them to be in your teams. But doing that fills a slot. They only have 1 card each, so basically if you do pick them, you're wasting a slot. By choosing Rolo or Fellow, you only get 1 card as opposed to if you picked a main cast character and with them you would get multiple. I think this is kind of garbage for 2 reasons. I think if you have Rolo and or Fellow, you should just be able to use them in addition to the 5 to 10 other characters you select. It's only 1 extra card, just let people use it. And my other reason is that there is coding in this event that allows for guest units. If you pull the staff card associated with the event, you don't have to pick them in your team lineup, they'll just be there. Why can't they do that for Rolo and Fellow? And hell, why can't they do that for the other staff cards? I have Crowley on JP. I would have to pick him to use him in the non-Crowley MAP events. You already have the coding for guest units. I think that should apply to any character that has only 1 card. The nature of this guest character feature encourages people to pull on the event banner, which I get, but then it low-key feels like a penalty for future MAP events. Yes, you can use Crowley for his event, but you're putting yourself at a severe disadvantage if you pick him for the other MAP events. I think characters with only 1 card should be allowed to be guest characters. Not to mention, I feel like it would incentivize people to play those banners more if they know, oh, this will be kind of a free character I can use for the events going forward. I mean, the staff is fairly popular, don't get me wrong, but I feel like you would probably get a better output on the banner if it was oh hey, you can use them as a free unit from, their banner on. So, Crowley, he'll just show up for, Cruel's event, and Train's event, and eventually Vargas's event. And then, Cruel will show up for his event, and then Train's, and that sort of thing. I just feel like it would incentivize more, and the whole thing kind of irritates me. It just kind of irritates me. My second thesis, the difficulty of the maps. This event is absolutely for meta players who have sunk loads of time into fully maxing every single character they have. I don't think there's anything wrong with having a battle-oriented event, but having things at one hard difficulty isn't great. When I was complaining on stream about this event, someone pointed out that having only one difficulty in a game where a lot of people are just here for the story is weird as hell, and I fully agree. I think it would make more sense to have some difficulties to choose from. If you're someone with loads of SSRs and you have everything fully maxed out, this event is probably fine for you. Although I don't think it would be a complete walk in the park for a reason I'll get into way later. But for everyone else, listen, I am a day one JP player. I downloaded the game as soon as it was online. My cards are leveled up and the ones I use for this event have their spell levels to at least level 5. I'm not a meta player, but I'm not exactly casual. I struggle with these events. I struggle extremely hard with these events. I start getting in trouble around map 4. That's halfway through the event. I cannot imagine how far casual players can get. If you haven't poured a lot of time into building cards, it makes the event extremely difficult. And if you have, in fact, built some cards, it's still really hard. I don't mind having events that are more battle heavy like this, but I feel like they're just not balanced. I get coding that would be insane if they did scale it with your character specifically, but this event really isn't for all players, and I think that kind of sucks. Especially when, frankly, the rewards are really good. And also, like that one person pointed out, most of the people are here for the story and not for the gameplay. I think a better way to do this would be for each map to have different difficulty settings. Easy, normal, and hard. Players can choose what difficulty they want to play, and maybe to entice people to play hard mode, the rewards can be better the harder the map is. Maybe for easy you get small blooming honey, normal gets medium, and hard gets large. My other problem with the difficulty is that it takes a long time to get through everything because of how hard it can be, which leads me to my next point. My third thesis is that I don't like how short these events are, and this point is going to carry into multiple other points. These events are extremely short for the amount of work that's needed to be done and with the game mechanics. The first event was 11 days long, the second was 13, the current one is also 13. And I know on paper that sounds like enough time, but in my opinion it's not, especially with some further points I have. There are 7 maps to do, and each gets bigger and bigger. There's a load of battles to do, and even if you're just picking and choosing, sometimes it feels like you're racing against the clock to get everything done in time, to get every reward before the event's over. This event is a time sink, and while I could excuse that normally, because of the mechanics of this event, I think this is too short of a time to get everything done, and it poses far too much of a challenge to the point where it's not a fun challenge, it's a stressful challenge. I think adding at least a few extra days to the event could help. But I also think there's other mechanics that need to be changed in addition to more days and difficulties to make these events more fun and less stressful. Or hell, you could even just do what I'm about to suggest and not even add extra days. My fourth point, I don't like how the maps completely reset if you beat them. If you don't get every tile and beat the boss, if you want to get those missed tiles, you have to go back and redo the entire map to get them. Normally, I don't think this would be super bad for the lower level maps that don't have as many tiles, but for the higher level ones, this sucks. For the harder ones, sometimes you have to pick one side of the map to do because you have to conserve resources to get through it. This means you have to go back multiple times to redo the map. If these events had more time, this wouldn't bother me that much, but when you have a short time frame and you're having to redo the maps multiple times, it's not great. I think the way to fix this would be if you beat tiles in a previous run, those tiles are already unlocked and you don't have to do them again. Or if you still want this as a challenge, make players pick 5 tiles they beat in the last run and have those be unlocked but everything else resets. I don't know. Also, if you manually reset the map before beating the boss, I think it's fine to have the entire thing reset. I don't actually mind that mechanic, but once you beat the boss, come on, man. My fifth thesis. This event has extremely limited resources in relation to the time and effort needed for the event. So in order to progress through the map, you need energy. The max you can have at one time is 10 energy. You can also use move tickets to progress through the map. 1 ticket equals 1 energy. But here's the thing. It takes 1 hour to regenerate 1 energy. If the event was longer, I don't think this would be that much of an issue. But when you have an event with a short time frame, with a load of work to do, and you have extremely limited resources in order to play said event, I think the hour time frame is way too long. I do like that when you start a map for the first time, you replenish all your energy automatically. That's good. but I think that it should take 30 to 40 minutes to regenerate 1 energy. If the events had a longer duration, an hour would be fine, but with the short time frame, the difficulty, and this, it's just not good. My 6th complaint is that I don't think retry tickets do enough. They can bring back 5 cards that have been downed and fully heal them. For the lower level maps, I think that's fine. I think 5 is a good amount. But for harder ones, I think it needs to bring back more. Maybe have it bring back 6 or 7. I don't think 5 is enough for something as difficult as the final maps, and also for a resource as rare as a retry ticket. My 7th thesis is that I think healing tiles need to scale with the difficulty. I think they're fine as is for maps 1 through 3, but I think once you hit 4, they should be a little more generous. Maybe heal 1 or more cards than the previous maps. So like instead of 3 to 5, maybe do like 4 to 6. Maybe have some super special healing tiles where players can pick what cards get healed. Granted, the cards haven't been downed. But I think with like 45 tiles, there needs to be a little more healing going around. And not just talking about the number of healing tiles, although I could use 1 or 2 more of those. I think just how many they heal would be like a better compromise on that. But anyways, my 8th point is that I think it's dumb how the events try to discourage people from speedrunning the full map. This one really makes me mad. If you make a beeline for the boss, there's generally going to be a tile around the boss that's insanely difficult. Sometimes even more so than the boss. And those aren't mini-boss tiles, they're just tiles that are weirdly difficult. Again, if there was more time to the event, if some other mechanics were tweaked, I don't think this would be inherently bad. But with the short time frame and the mechanics it has, it's just weird to punish players for trying to get through the event as fast as possible. Like, of course people are trying to beat the map as soon as possible. It takes at least a few days to do 1 map when you're hitting the higher level maps. This feels like the game is punishing the player for trying to beat the maps in a short time, which you kind of have to do. This is one of the most frustrating features for me. Like, of course the players are going to try to beat these quickly because there's so little time. Why are you trying to punish them for that? Maybe instead of making insanely hard battle tiles, maybe you should consider why players are trying to get through these maps so fast, and maybe give them a reason to do the rest of the map before the boss. And more time. But like, maybe have a special reward tile in the far corner of a map so players will want to get to those. Maybe even have it be something that's not even like a normal reward. Because not gonna lie, sometimes there will be reward tiles near the corners, but when you're at a higher level, you kinda have to say, fuck it, I can't do that, and you have to skip it. So make the reward worth it for people. Maybe have a special story tile there so people will want to go out of their way for it. I just don't think putting super hard challenges in front of the boss in order to slow people down is a good thing in this current setting. And to be honest, it feels like a lazy way to make players do the whole map. But I'm going to talk about that more after my next point. My 9th and final thesis is a very radical one, but stay with me on this one. The way battles currently work, with the game randomly choosing spells out of your roster so only 5 are available at a time, I think for most things, that's fine. But I think for these events, we need to do away with that. I think all spells should be available from the get-go. And here's why. There's a load of strategy going on with the higher difficulty maps. You are having to choose the best units you have, but you have to factor in remaining HP, duo magic, who has the best skills for this battle, where are your healers. You can pick your strongest SSRs. You can have everyone with duo magic. Everyone can be the right elements. You can do every single thing right. And then you get into battle, and things are just up to chance. There have been loads of times I've lost not because I picked the wrong cards, not because I picked weak cards. It was because the game's RNG didn't let me use the elements I needed, and it gave me things I didn't at that moment. Those final maps are so reliant on you thinking hard about your choices, but then that can all be nullified when you're in battle, and I don't think that's fair. The game wants you to think hard about your strategy, but then it goes and does something that makes all that work you did void. It's like, great, you did what the game wanted you to. Now it's going to completely screw you over even though you did what it wanted. I think the way to fix this, like I said, is for maps 6 and 7, or maybe just 7, have all spells available from the beginning. I have a lot of complaints about this event, and I think it all boils down to 2 things. 1, there's not enough time for the challenges presented, and 2, the MAP events feel difficult in a lazily manufactured way, and it leaves the player feeling stressed and like the game is working against the player at every given turn. I don't mind having challenges in games, but I feel like the challenges in this event are just trying to make things difficult for difficult's sake, and not trying to make actually creative challenges that will be fun. Instead of thinking of actual challenges, the game just makes super hard battles, limited resources, and a short time frame and calls it done. There's no creativity in this. There's no element of fun in this. And it feels kind of lazy, to be honest. The team did create challenges that make people think, but other aspects undermine those challenges. Like I said in my 9th point, even if you worked hard on your strategy, the game's RNG with spells could screw you over. And if you fail, you might have to redo the entire map again, and it was just because the RNG ruined things. The game wants you to do the full map, but it gives you extremely limited resources and not enough time to do everything. In addition to the suggestions I gave, I think tiles should have fun challenges. It doesn't have to be a lot of them, but it needs to be some. These challenges can be like, beat this battle only with rare cards, or have a team consisting of only X character, or pick 10 cards for this fight and we'll pick 5 out of those to actually do the battle with. And if you beat these challenges, they give you a little extra reward. Think of the Tsum's event. They had fun little challenges there. Why can't we use that for this event? Like, why? One thing I didn't complain about, because in the end I think it's just the nature of battle maps, but these maps get monotonous. I think having special challenges on some tiles would not only be fun, but break up the monotony. And also, like, if you have special challenges on tiles, it provides some good enrichment. Maybe even have some tiles where you can go back to it later, and maybe if you complete, like, another challenge, it goes from, like, a reward tile to a healing tile. I think players should think hard about strategy in this event, but I think the game needs to take care that they don't end up working against that, and also to provide different ways of concocting strategy. Don't just rely on players thinking about their remaining roster and HP. Give some constraints to team making for some tiles. Maybe make them last a certain amount of turns. Just add more variety to the challenges you're giving players. The battle map events could be great, but they need a lot of changes. And hell, not everything I said would need to be implemented to make them better. Like I said, if they added different difficulties or made energy replenished just a little faster, I don't think they need to make the events longer. But the way the events currently are is really frustrating and extremely stressful. And it doesn't have to be that way. These events could be super fun if they just tweaked a few things. Okay, I'm done being a bitch now, so let's move on to viewer questions. Rani, she/her asks, "Hello, I have a question that might sound silly. Do you think it's possible for you, or any Magicless person, to wield magical tools or items since they don't require the user/wielder to be able to use magic in order to use them? For example, if you was given a magical sword that can create and manipulate ice, could they wield it and control the ice without issue?" Thank you for the question, and also it's not silly. There's no such thing as a silly or stupid question. And also, I have fantastic news for you because we actually have a straight answer from Canon about it. The short answer is yes, Magicless people can indeed use magical tools. The longer answer is yes, they can use magic tools, but there's not really an explanation as of now of why that is. In the guest room stories, Yu finds various magical tools and Crowley confirms they can use them even though they're magicless. When Yu finds a magic hammer, Crowley says, if you have the right materials, all it takes is one swing of that hammer and poof, you've got furniture. And since the hammer itself is chanted, you don't need magic to use it, Yu. When they find a projector and gramophone, they're told they can use them since the tools have magic. We're even told how to work the gramophone. So it's possible, but we don't know the exact way it works. Crowley just says the item itself is enchanted and that's why. My personal guess is that the enchantment is set up to work when it detects the right materials and a certain gesture. When both of those requirements are met, the enchantment triggers a spell and poof, furniture. Also for a book 7 thing, but in chapter 8, this is basically how the Dreamform Change Magical Girl clothes changing tool works. As long as Yu says Dreamform Change and chooses an outfit, they too can live out their Maho Shoujo Madoka Magica dreams. But yeah, I think this is probably the case with all enchanted magical tools. The gramophone works by touching it and it pulls a song from memory, so those are probably the requirements to get it to work. If a non-mage was given a magical weapon, as long as it was already enchanted and they were told how to trigger the magic in it, they would be able to use it. Mellowberry, she, her, or they, them asked, do you think we will ever see past event characters in future content / extra content again? Parentheses, I want to see Rolo, Fellow, Gidel, Scully again, please, and parentheses. Thank you for the question. I think we will, but admittedly, I think it's more possible for some characters than others. As much as I love my Sunboy Scully, I think really outside of his inevitable card this year, because of his predicament, I don't think we'll see much of him at all. But for Rolo and Fellow and Guidel, it's much more possible. After all, Rolo goes to another arcane academy and Fellow's trying to make his own school. I think considering the main story of the game is magic school, it's totally possible we'll run into them again. Especially considering how popular Rolo is. Rolo was the king of event characters until Scully showed up. But maybe that view is skewed since none of my friends Yume with Rolo, but a lot of them Yume with Scully. But yeah, I think we will see more of them. But with Scully, I think it'll be slimmer pickings than we might get with, Rolo and Fellow and Guidel. Nana, she/her asked, do you think the older Tsum events will ever get a rerun? I desperately need Tsum 7 to complete the Diasomnia collection, haha. I think we will eventually, but I have no idea when that would be. We haven't had any Tsum reruns in JP, but since we're getting MasterChef reruns, maybe that means all the events have a chance of getting reruns. Plus, from a business standpoint, I don't think it makes sense to pour all these resources into an event and then never do it again, or never do anything with it again. But that being said, I don't know. We haven't had any Tsum reruns in JP and they're not listed in our events flashback page. But to be honest, I think EN is far more likely to do reruns of banners and events than JP is. We've never gotten any club card reruns on the Japanese server, but EN has reruns of those banners. We've also never gotten reruns of the Chapter 7 SSRs, but EN has. I think they all have chances to be reran, but I have no clue when they would do that, though. Okay, Judas, he/him asked, just saw the announcement for the Twst anime. Do you think they handed the anime off to the right studio? Do you think Disney will actually promote the anime? What studio would you have preferred to handle the anime? Personally, UFO Table. Would you like to see a possible English dub? Thank you for the questions. I don't know much about animation studios, to be honest. I just know one of the animation studios involved in The Legend of Korra were, part of the problem for Book 2 delays or something like that, so I'm glad they're not involved. And all I know about UFO Table is they're involved with the Genshin anime that still hasn't come out yet, so, to be honest, I don't know how I feel about them. I'm sure the anime's in good hands. Part of me does wish Disney had brought back or rebuilt their 2D animation sector and did the anime themselves, but this isn't really an art style they're super used to, so it is probably better for a Japanese studio to be doing it. As for actually promoting the anime, I think Disney JP obviously will, but I don't know about Disney US. I think it would make sense for them to, at least a little bit. Twist is a cash cow franchise in Japan. It could directly compete with Harry Potter. Boo JK Rowling. And also, there's an overlap between Disney adults and anime fans. It's not a large overlap, but it does exist. Not to mention, the more people interested in the anime, the more subscriptions to Disney+. I don't know if they'll, put the anime poster up in downtown Disney or anything, but I'd love to see it. And I think especially since this is their own IP, it makes more sense to promote it, but we'll have to see, unfortunately. I would love to see an English dub, and I think we're getting one for surezies. I would bet good money on that. Just if Wonderland is going to be available in multiple regions and loads of anime get English dubs nowadays. I don't think they'll ever add English voices to the game, but the anime is absolutely going to get dubbed. As for a dubcast, I definitely have my picks. If you guys would like to see a full Dreamcast video, let me know. But really, all I know for sure is I want Chris Hackney, Alejandro Saab, Nicholas Leung, and Bill Butts in it. I think Bill would be an insanely good Crowley, and Nicholas is my top pick for Silver. Chris and Alejandro, though, I just hope they're in it somewhere. As for now, I can't really think of anyone specific I think they'd be perfect for. I know a lot of people want Alejandro to voice Leona, but I disagree. I think black characters should be cast to black actors first and foremost, and most importantly. And obviously, it'd be a dream to be in it. If I could voice Yuka, I would die of happiness, but that's never gonna happen. But still, a bitch can dream, right? Alright, so before I get into my ending spiel, here's the updates on other submissions and about the podcast in general. I'm working on submissions. A question I got about relationships should be up next month. I'm finally at a place where I'm satisfied with the groundwork, so I'm now at the point of actually discussing the game lore and writing that. As for this podcast, I think I'm going to make it every other month. That way I can have the podcast one month and then a longer theory or video essay or opinion piece the other month. And that's it for the month. Thank you guys for listening. If you'd like to send in a lore question or anything, honestly, feel free to use my suggestion box. It'll be linked down below. But yeah, I feel a little better after bitching, although not 100%. But then again, I don't know if I'll ever feel 100% again. At least I won't in these upcoming years. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this installment of Talking Twist.